Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we're going to jump into the fascinating story of how we actually build software. And let me tell you, it's a journey of learning from some pretty epic mistakes, of tearing down walls, and of moving from these super rigid, unchangeable blueprints to, well, to building and fixing complex systems while they're already flying. I mean, this whole evolution has totally reshaped the digital world we live in. So, let's get into how it all happened.
You know, the famous military strategist Helmut Graf von Moltke once said, "No plan survives contact with the enemy." Now, in the world of software, the enemy isn't some army. It's just reality. It's that unexpected bug that pops up out of nowhere, or a sudden change in what a customer wants, or even a tiny misunderstanding that can throw a whole project off the rails. And that one idea, that right there is the core reason why the way we build software had to change so dramatically. And this, oh man, this cartoon perfectly illustrates the core human part of the challenge. You've probably seen a version of this, right? A customer comes in and asks for something super simple, a tree swing. But as that idea gets passed from person to person, from the project manager to the analyst to the programmer, it gets twisted and misinterpreted every step of the way. And the final result? Something completely, utterly useless. It's the perfect metaphor for that huge gap between a brilliant idea and the thing you actually end up with. So, here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the first real attempt to fix this chaos, which I like to call the blueprint problem. Then, we'll dive into the rise of a totally new way of thinking called Agile. From there, we'll see how we started breaking down the walls between teams, how we pulled security into the mix, and finally, we'll look back at this whole collaborative journey that got us to where we are today.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Our story really kicks off with the very first major attempt to bring some kind of order to the Wild West of software development, the Waterfall Model.
The logic behind Waterfall made a lot of sense at the time because it was borrowed straight from the physical world. Think about it. If you're building a skyscraper or a bridge, you need a perfect, finalized blueprint before you pour a single ounce of concrete, right? You can't just decide to move a support column halfway through the build. Waterfall tried to apply that exact same rigid, step-by-step logic to building something as fluid as software.
And as you can see from this flow right here, the process moves in just one direction, like a literal waterfall. You have to finish the entire planning phase, get every single requirement down, and only then can you move on to coding, then building, then testing, and so on. And what's the most important rule? No going back. Once a phase is done, it's basically set in stone.
Okay, but here's the fatal flaw. While Waterfall was organized, it created what's been called the lethal problem of achieving failure. Let that sink in. This is a situation where a team can follow a plan perfectly, stay on budget, hit every deadline, and deliver a beautiful piece of software that absolutely nobody wants or needs anymore because the world simply changed while they were busy building it.
So, as you can imagine, after building the wrong thing perfectly over and over again, something had to give. The business world was speeding up, and companies realized they needed to adapt way faster. This pressure cooker environment was the spark that ignited a move away from those rigid plans and toward flexible, adaptive actions. And this was the birth of Agile.
So, the philosophical shift here is just huge. Waterfall is like an architect with a fixed, unchangeable blueprint. But Agile? Agile is more like a sculptor. A sculptor starts with just a rough block of stone and a vision, right? And through thousands of small, iterative chips and polishes, they slowly reveal the final form, constantly adjusting their plan as they go. That is the heart of iterative development.
This new way of thinking was eventually captured in the Agile Manifesto. And if you look at this table, you can see it's really just a declaration of values. It's not saying the things on the right, like processes and plans, are worthless. Of course they're not. But it makes a very clear statement. We value the things on the left more. We value people and how they interact. We value software that actually works. We value collaborating with our customers. And maybe most importantly, we value the ability to respond to change over blindly following a plan.
Okay, so Agile is the big picture mindset, but how do you actually do it day to day? Well, one of the most popular frameworks is called Scrum. And honestly, the best way to think about Scrum is to picture a busy, professional restaurant kitchen. It's all about project management and getting high-quality dishes out to the customer fast. In this kitchen, you have three key roles. The product owner, that's your head chef. They have the vision for the entire menu. The team, those are your skilled line cooks, the experts who are actually making the food. And the Scrum Master, they are the expediter.
Their job is to make sure the kitchen is running smoothly and to clear any roadblocks so the cooks can just focus on cooking.
Now, if Scrum is the kitchen that's focused on managing the project, there's another flavor of Agile called Extreme Programming, or XP. For this one, I want you to picture a high-performance race car pit crew. XP is all about technical excellence and taking really good engineering practices to the absolute, well, extreme.
So, let's look at what our pit crew is doing. Pair programming is like having two mechanics working on the exact same engine part at the same time. One is using the tools, and the other is watching, double-checking, and catching potential mistakes in real time. Test-driven development is like building the complex diagnostic rig before you even manufacture the engine part, just to guarantee it's going to work. And continuous integration? That's like running a full diagnostic on the entire car after tightening a single bolt, just to make sure every little change works perfectly with the whole system.
Okay, so Agile made development teams way faster and more efficient. But of course, this created a brand new problem. As the developers started shipping code faster and faster, a massive bottleneck started to appear at the handoff point to the operations team, the folks who actually have to run the software in the real world. This bottleneck became known as the wall of confusion. Imagine a toy factory. The design team, that's our dev team, is cranking out toy parts as fast as they can. And what do? They just throw them over a huge wall to the assembly team, our ops team. The assemblers have no clue how these new parts are supposed to fit together, and if something's wrong, the whole factory just grinds to a halt. This was the painful reality for a lot of companies.
The solution to this wall was DevOps. DevOps is really a cultural and technical movement that's all about tearing that wall down. It's about creating one single, unified team where everyone shares the same goals, and then automating the entire process from start to finish, creating one seamless, automated assembly line.
Now, this brings us to a really common question, and frankly, a huge mistake a lot of organizations make. They think, oh, this DevOps thing sounds great. Let's just rename our operations team the DevOps team. Problem solved, right? No, this is a classic anti-pattern. And why does it fail? Because it does absolutely nothing to change the culture. You still have one team throwing work over the wall to another, you just slapped a new name on them. True DevOps isn't about job titles, it's a deep, fundamental cultural shift towards shared responsibility for the entire product from beginning to end.
All right, so with the wall between dev and ops finally torn down, there was just one last super critical piece to integrate into this new high-speed way of working: security. Here's another analogy that makes this crystal clear. The old way of doing security was like building an entire bank, and only after the whole thing is finished, you bring in a security team to add some locks and cameras as an afterthought. If they find a major flaw, like the vault wall is too thin, well, it's way too late. DevSecOps is like having the security expert in the room from day one, helping design the vault and integrating alarms right into the structure as you build. This whole idea is called shifting left. If you look at the then timeline on the slide, you can see how security used to be this one big, expensive gate at the very end of the process, way over on the right. DevSecOps, as you can see in the now timeline, literally shifts it all the way to the left. It integrates security, that's a little S shield, into every single part of the process, making it a constant thought, not a final hurdle to jump over.
So, let's take a breath and just recap this incredible journey of collaboration and evolution. We started with Waterfall's super rigid blueprint. We learned to embrace change with Agile. We broke down those frustrating walls between teams with DevOps. And finally, we baked security in from the very beginning with DevSecOps. Each step was a lesson in becoming more collaborative and ultimately more adaptive. And this final slide, for me, just perfectly captures the entire philosophical shift. The Waterfall mission is certain. We are going to Mars. You build the rocket, you test it, you go. But the Agile mission, it embraces uncertainty. It says, we're going to Mars, probably. You start building, you learn things, your goal might change, and hey, maybe you end up landing on the moon instead. And here's the key. The moon isn't a failure. It's a different, but still incredibly valuable destination. The ultimate lesson is that building the best software isn't about perfectly following a plan. It's about learning how to navigate the unknown together.